All right. And then I think we're ready whenever you are.
You want me to go ahead and get started?
I think so.
All right. Well, good morning or good afternoon based on where you're at. My name's Todd Wooten, a financial advisor here in Valparaiso, Indiana. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of a presentation, hopefully to share some ideas, concept, a couple nuggets that can help both the attorneys as well as the advisors working together collectively for our clients. And today's topic is just really next generation planning. Pretty simple. And you know what I really believe is that we're getting the money ready for the kids, but we're not getting the kids ready for the money. And I may take it a step forward where maybe we're not getting the money correctly ready for the kids because a lot of times we send taxable money to the children who are in a higher tax bracket in their peak earning years. So we want to talk through some ideas and different things to help sort that out. Take forever tax to the land of never taxed. So we'll go to the next screen. And when I give a seminar on legacy planning, I'm always reminded of the story of the young man studying at McDonald's. He's a college student. He's sipping on a Diet Coke while he's studying for this exam. Up comes this beautiful red Ferrari. Out gets this very expensively dressed young man. He's got the alligator shoes, the tweed pants, the silk shirt. He comes in, gets a meal, sits not too far from the young college student and begins to eat his meal. And the young college student couldn't help himself. And he finally went over to the young man and says, "You know, I hate to interrupt you, but I couldn't help the car that you drove, the clothes that you wear. You must be worth a lot of money." Well, the young man looked at the college student and said, "Well, I'm worth about $1 million." Well, the young college student says, "Well, how did you acquire so much at a young age?" And the young man replied to him, "You see, 3 years ago, my father passed away and left me a $5 million IRA." So the moral of the story is that they didn't really get the kids ready for the money, and he spent through taxes, spent through buying things rather than planning for his own future. And sometimes we have to protect the kids from themselves. Go ahead and all right. In the next 2 decades, approximately 70 plus $1 trillion will go through a wealth transfer. And statistically, 90% of assets will leave the firm. That's a lot. Now, we don't have that problem here because we work with both generations, the wealth holders as well as the inheritors, and we bring and build strategies that bring the two together. Estate planning is an important and often overlooked part of everyone's financial legacy plan, and it's both for the wealth holders and the inheritors. Estate planning is making informed decisions before someone else makes them without your input. I believe that if you own something and you love someone, you plan for it because if you don't, others will input and it may not be what you want. Money is always there, but during that transfer, it just simply changes pockets. It goes from the wealth holder's pocket to the inheritor's pocket, but the money is always there. If you want someone to water the flowers at your grave, you've got to talk to them beforehand. It's so critically important to communicate and to share and to talk. I'm a big believer in having family meetings. Sometimes people don't like to talk about the number part, but you all should share the planning part to be able to do that. The problem is in the old planning is we had estate planning, which is really death planning. You know, people do a will or they do a trust and they die and the monies are distributed out and it's just really death planning. But people have a lifetime of assets and experiences. See, they have wisdom, values, and insights, and to pass on to the next generation. But it often doesn't happen because people view estate planning as death planning, and there's not a lot of communication and transfer of those values. And we want to change that a little bit with the new estate planning, the new legacy planning, where we're combining the wealth holder and the inheritors coming together. There's three phases in generational planning. One is the clients. They're the wealth holders. They're the parents now and the kids later. Then we have the children and the grandchildren who are the inheritors. And there's a lot of family dynamics and communication that takes place there. We've all seen great stories. We've all seen terrible stories. We've all seen dysfunctional families, and we've all seen things that just flow together. And I believe that planning is such a critical part, as well as communicating, because every family has their own unique dynamics. And then you have the professionals. That's you and I, the attorneys and the advisors working collectively for the benefit of the client. And I believe that when we come together as an ensemble, an interdisciplinary practice, working on behalf of the wealth holders and the inheritors, it helps us to keep the money in the firm. It helps to relieve problems and for the parents to carry out their wishes. Now, a lot of times I'll ask questions, key questions to clients. I'll ask them, and maybe you can pick up a couple nuggets or utilize these, is who do you love? What do you own? Who can I trust to direct this money after I cannot, whether it be a stroke or death? How and when should my kids or grandkids have direct control over the property? I know for my own children, I have to protect them from themselves. They're adults, but when they get money in a lump sum, they're going to spend it. They have good jobs. They're great fathers. They're great parents and husbands. But, when it comes to receiving an inheritance, they've not had that before. And will this money help them or hurt them? If given a choice, do you want this money to be taxable or tax-free? And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the planning strategies from the advisor perspective and working with the attorneys that really help bring the two together. There's 4 statements that I usually ask people, and I'll tell them, you have a blind spot, and I want to help you protect them from it. We've all been in a situation where we're in our car or truck driving, and we want to trade lanes, and then we start to exchange lanes, and then we realize there's a car right next to us, and that car was in what we call our blind spot, and we jerk and bring the car back over simply because we couldn't see it. And I believe when it comes to estate planning and financial planning, there are blind spots that people don't really see, and they're not aware of them. No planning will have a ripple effect across multiple generations. And I believe if you own something and love someone, you develop and finalize a plan to implement it for the good of the family. And I'll ask them, when was the last time you did something for the very first time and it was picture perfect? So we only die once. We usually only retire once. And that's why working collectively with the team, that we can work together to be able to help you do it the right way, picture perfect. Because on our own, none of us have done something for the very first time and it was picture perfect. And I'll ask clients this a lot. If there was a missing piece of information that could create a substantial problem or cost, both now and the future, when would you want to know about it? And that really gets them to think about their situation and where they're at. And you can ask that as an attorney, you can ask it as an advisor, and it creates questions because you don't know what you don't know. You have that blind spot. If there was a missing piece of information that could create a substantial problem or cost, both now and the future, when would you want to know about it? It really helps lead a great conversation. And we also want to stop the wrong beneficiary from inheriting your IRA. A lot of wealth is built in retirement accounts, and they're going to transfer from one generation to another. And when you die, your IRA will go to 3 places. It will go to your heirs, it will go to charity, and it will go to the IRS. But the IRS says with proper planning, you can eliminate one. And I'll ask people, which one would you like to eliminate? And they obviously say, well, the IRS. And I said, do you have a plan for that? And a lot of times people do not. In fact, 90% of all IRAs are cashed in at the death of the second spouse. So guess who is the biggest beneficiary? And that is the IRS. In today's economic environment, there is ample opportunity to make big, costly, and oftentimes irreversible mistakes. We've seen that over and over, both from an attorney and an advisor perspective, where people simply didn't know what they didn't know. They had a blind spot, made a decision based off the opinion of somebody, and just did very elementary planning and created a substantial problem for their heirs. We are in the process of transferring away our assets to those who create the situation, who control the outcome, and they will profit from it. And we need to eliminate that. And by having a plan, we can protect what we've worked hard for and keep it in the family. Working together with clients and attorneys and advisor creates teamwork. You may have heard teamwork makes the dream work. I believe teamwork is the fuel that allows ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results. Wealth is built within the family. And if we can protect the financial integrity of the family, oh my, what can we do for multiple generations? The following conversation and planning strategies, I believe, help build stronger relationships, both with the clients and the kids. We don't lose a spouse when one dies, they stay with us, and we keep a large percentage of the children, because when the children know how we treat and take care of mom and dad while helping them mitigate taxes, my goodness, they stay on board, they hire us, and we continue to do planning. And I think there's an opportunity to do estate planning for the children as well as the parents. And if we open up the door and begin to build relationships and implement certain strategies, it can go a long, long way. So I want to talk about something I draw on the board. It's called the Smart Money List. And basically, we have free money, which is you can gift money. I believe it's $18,000 this year. We have inheritance, so that's free money. People inherit money. And then we have the 401k match, where you work for an employer, and you put in $1, they match it. There's about $27 billion of unmatched funds that are not taken advantage of today. Then we have what we call tax-free money. And I always tell people there are two tax rules. There's one for the informed and one for the underinformed. It's what we don't know. And I won't get into the detail of these, but muni bonds are tax-free. The interest, if it's purchased correctly within your state, an HSA, health savings account, is a wonderful thing because you get to deduct it, get to defer it, and you get it tax-free for qualified medical expenses. We also have the Roth, and we have life insurance, and those proceeds are normally, depending upon the estate, are tax-free. And then we have tax deferred. That's the 401k, the IRA, the non-qualified annuity, where we're deferring the taxes till the end. And then we have taxable money. And that's everything else in which we pay taxes each year. But I have $1 in front of me, and I'll illustrate this. I said if we took this $1, we doubled it every year for 20 years. What would be the value of it? So this $1 today is $2 tomorrow, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, and so forth. In 20 years, it's worth $1,048,000. But if I have to pay 28% taxes on my gains every year, so the profits I make each year, I'm paying 28%. Guess how much it's worth in 20 years? $54,000. But people say, Todd, you have to pay tax. I said, okay, what if we wait to the end of the 20 years and pay 28%? Well, that's roughly $750,000. So our goal in planning is to upstream the money from taxable to tax deferred to tax free. Now, can you put all that money there? No, but it allows us the opportunity to take that and to reposition it to where it's tax free, both to a couple, the surviving spouse, and the children. Going horizontally with your investments is like changing deck chairs on the Titanic. Doesn't matter what chair you sat in, the boat what? It sank. So this is a really nice, easy conversation that engages people to talk about planning in a different perspective to help them to better position that money when it comes to transferring that wealth. I like this. I tell people all the time, I say, I want you to spell these two words out, the IRS. And I'd like you to bring that together. And they all laugh because it's theirs. They think that our money, your money, is their money. And without proper planning, they are sometimes the biggest beneficiary of that. You all may be familiar or not with the US debt clock. That's kind of a real time, it ticks. I'd encourage you to go and put that on the website, look it up. But this was taken a picture a couple years ago where the debt clock was 31 trillion. Now it's over 34 trillion. And if you look at the debt per taxpayer is $246,000, way more than a year's wages. We know where we're at and what taxes are going to be and what they're going to look at, because I don't think people realize how big a trillion is. So let's break it down into seconds. So a million seconds is 11 and a half days. A billion seconds is 32 years. A trillion seconds is 32,000 years. And just in our US national debt, there is $34 trillion that, and we have unfunded liabilities. If there's ever a need to plan, it is today. I think the next 1 to 2 to 3 decades, there's a huge opportunity for us to reposition assets to minimize taxes. So let's talk a little bit about the history of taxes. So if Shailene, if you could just kind of click and I'll talk through this. 1980, if you made 600,000, you were in a 70% tax bracket. If you made 30,000, you were in a 37%. Some of you may or may not remember those days. So if I look at the consumer price index, that's inflation. And in today, it's nearly $100,000. So in 2019, if you made 600,000, it's 37%. If you made 100,000, it's 12%. But before the 2017 Tax Reform Act, 100,000 was 25%. So now we have the Tax Reform Act and it sunsets at the end of 2025. So the question is, what will taxes be when it sunsets the end of 2025? So we have a couple years to really reposition some of our clients' money to allow them to pay minimal tax. Because you know when the best time to pay taxes is? It's at the lowest rate. That's the best time to pay taxes. And so we hope that after that, it doesn't go back. If you click one more, with those 12 and 25% goes to 37%. But if you look at our tax debt, it easily could do that and be justifiable. Here what we have is micro and macro. Now, this is two powerful words. Most advisors, most CPAs do micro planning. That's how to minimize taxes for the year. Nothing wrong with that. But what we are is macro tax planners. So what we want to do is minimize taxes over your lifetime. So if you click the button again, Would you rather pay a little bit more today and know that you can save tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxes over your lifetime, over your surviving spouse, and over your children and grandchildren? And, a Roth IRA, would you rather pay tax on the seed or the harvest? So if I have a $100 seed and I plant it and it grows to $1,000 harvest, which tax would you rather pay on $100 or $1,000? And people start to see and understand the concept of paying a little bit more now to save tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes over their lifetime. This is how planning can come together and implement these strategies where the attorney and the advisor work collectively together for the benefit of the client. I used to do a lot of workshops. Is your IRA an IOU to the IRS? It was a play on words. We had a fun time, but we talked about there's three things you do with your IRA. One is you live on it. That's forward tax planning. RMDs, required minimum distributions with Secure Act 2.0. It's now 73, and in 10 years, it'll be 75. And we help them do that. And then the next click is the second thing we do is what we call is leverage it. We take the least amount of money to create the most. Now, what I'm going to do is I have an example that I do in a workshop, and I'll tell you, it really changes the dynamics of what happens in a seminar. And I'll give a individual a $20 bill before the seminar, and I said, I'm going to borrow this from you during the presentation. Do you mind? No, not at all. So I'll go to Joe and I'll say, Joe, can I borrow $20? And he'll hand me the $20. And I'll say to the audience, Joe is from the IRS and he's here to help us. And they all laugh at that. So he gives me 20. Now I tell him, I want you to take out your wallets in your pocketbook because I'm going to sell this $20 bill. And they all begin to look at me real funny. And over time, I said, I'm serious. I'm going to sell this $20 bill for $10. So who can give me a $10 bill? So the first one that gives me a $10 bill, I give them the $20. And now I have a $10 bill. And I'll go, Susie, how did that make you feel? She said, I loved it. I said, would you do it again? Absolutely. How long would you do it? I'd do it forever. Then I'll say, I'm going to sell this $10 bill for $5. So now they're getting their pocketbook out a little faster. And so somebody will give me a $5 bill and I'll go through the same process. How did that feel? Would you do it again? How long would you do it? And now they're laughing, they're engaging, they're involved. And I said, I'm going to sell the $5 bill for $1. And now they're rushing to get their money out. And then they'll give me $1 and I gave them a 5. And we talk about, the leverage and how good that feels to be able to leverage your money. And then I'll go back to Joe, who is from the IRS, and I say, Joe, here's your $1 back. And they all laugh because he gave 20 to give $1 back. And I'll say, some of you chose not to participate. A few of you chose to participate. And for the very first time, you know what it's like to feel like the bank. They all laugh. I said, I just taught you the velocity of money. I distributed $35 for just $19. I said, I want you to think about that. We just distributed $35 for only $19. And I'll say, who was the biggest winner? Sometimes they'll come up and say, well, I got the 20. I said, you're right. You get to buy dinner tonight. They all laugh. And then I said, no, really, who is the winner? And someone will say the $5 because they got 5 times the leverage. And that's what you can do with an IRA is that you can help leverage it to create more money and in a much favorable tax benefit for your clients. And then if you click again, If you do nothing, you basically lose it. 90% of all IRAs are cashed in at the death of the second spouse. And did you know that the average retiree is in about an 8.6% effective tax rate? And the kids are around 30 plus because they're in their peak earning years, and then they inherit hundreds of thousands in an IRA. And now we can't stretch it, but we have the 10-year rule. And I talk to people a lot about, would you rather stretch, a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA? We talk through that. And I see people coming in all the time, and it gives us opportunities to talk to their parents because they're still alive. And I've gotten the parents as clients, the kids as clients, and their kids as clients because we're talking about protecting the financial integrity of the family. And the average inheritance is spent between 90 days and 17 months. I've seen it all over the board, but we all know that it doesn't last very long. The successful legacy plan, as I begin to wind down, is that we have the spouse. And when we lose a spouse, most couples don't die together. Does that spouse have enough resources to live comfortably? So, in our planning, we're always talking about legacy planning, estate planning, and financial planning to take care of the surviving spouse, not just managing a portfolio or just selling insurance, but how do we take care of them while they're alive and when they lose one? And are they able to carry on managing the money? A lot of times, one did the money, one did not. We'll step in and really spend a lot of time helping them. Let me encourage you to really look at, include, and involve the spouse because it is critically important that when that husband sees that you're listening and answering questions and taking care of his wife, that goes a long, long way. The second is children. Are they prepared for their inheritance? What do they have planned? Are they spendthrift? Are there special needs? Are there failed marriages? I mean, we can go on. You know a lot of that. But are they prepared for their inheritance? Do they understand how to save taxes, fees, and plan to save and invest to take care of their future as well as take care of their children? And so I really believe in letters. Now with video, I think videos are a wonderful thing to that last I love you to take care. And here's what my values, my legacy, things that I believe in, the wisdom to be able to share that. Then we have grandchildren and future generations. Understand how you lived, what you lived for, and do that again in video. Then you have the world at large, people and organizations. You believe in that you want to make contributions for good work. You can disinherit the three heirs, charity, and the IRS, but you have to give to two. You can eliminate one. And I believe that if we plan successfully and give the appreciated assets, give the IRA some of that money to charity, then the IRS is totally disinherited. They're the only ones that get hurt. And I believe that we should give back to the community that gave us the opportunity to create that wealth and to plan for the success of my family. It's, as I've mentioned before, protecting the financial integrity of the family. Financial integrity is about your legacy plan. Boy, if there is ever a time, ever a need, we need to plan for people in their estate planning, in their legacy planning, and that of their children. Just the huge opportunity of collectively coming together to protect the family financial integrity gives you opportunity, allows you to keep the funds and to continue to do the things that you need to do. I'm reminded, as we talked about, we're getting the money ready for the kids, but we're not getting the kids ready for the money. Here's a simple story as I close that a lot of people love and they laugh at and in the seminar. And if you go ahead, Shalene, and click a couple times, But it reminds me of a story of a gentleman who was getting elderly. He had his own business, was very successful. He was in his library by the fireplace reading a book. He had asked for his son to come in and he wanted to talk to him. So his son went into the library and he went there and he said, "Son, you know that I'm getting older. One day this business is going to be yours. But before I start to talk about that, I want you to go out and earn $300." So the son left and went out, and mom was right there and said, "What did dad say?" "Well, he eventually wants to pass the business on to me. But before he starts that conversation, he wants me to go out and earn $300." Well, mom says, "Listen, don't worry about earning the $300. I'll give you $300. In 2 days, you can go back in and see dad." Well, 2 days come by. He goes in, says, "Dad, I earned the $300 you required of me." Well, without looking, dad takes the 300, throws it in the fireplace. "Dad, what are you doing?" "Son, I told you to go out and earn $300." So he left, and mom asked, "How did it go?" Well, he threw it in the fireplace. He said, "I've got to earn $300. "Well, let's wait a week. Let's put some dirt on you. Let's make it like you've been out working, and I'll give you $300. So he goes back into dad and said, "Hey, dad, I really earned this $300. Dad just takes the money, throws it in the fireplace, and said, "Son, I told you to earn $300. Dad, that's now $600 that you burned." So he left. Mom said, "What? How did it go?" "I have got to go earn $300. "Well, let's figure out a plan," mom says. He said, "Absolutely not. I'm going to go earn $300. So he went out and did chores, he did jobs, and he earned his $300. So he comes in to dad. He's sitting there on his chair reading a book by the fireplace. He said, "Dad, I truly, truly, truly earned $300. Dad takes the money, throws it in the fire, said, "Son, I told you to earn $300. This time the son jumped in the fire, pulled out his $300, said, "Dad, I earned this." He said, "Ah, I see now that you earned the $300. And so, with our kids not being prepared, not working, they're sometimes not ready for it, and you've got to protect them. And I think that if you bring the kids and you bring the parents, the wealth holders, and the inheritors together, building a tax efficient wealth transfer strategy, we have the ability to better serve our clients, increase customer satisfaction, and retain opportunity to continue to do business multiple generations. Most people have an idea of how much they have, but many don't have a good idea what to expect from what they have or how it will affect their kids. And I often ask after a question, do you have a plan in place for it? My definition as a pilot, I never would fly anywhere without a flight plan. But how many people have a financial flight plan? And plan I break down is one is to protect. The best way to make a lot of money is not to lose a lot of money. It's to mitigate risk. And it's not just investment risk or market risk, but it's inflation, it's interest, it's longevity, it's healthcare, it's estate tax. All those things is about mitigating risk. The second is L is leverage, taking the least amount to create the most with a level of certainty that is completely tax free. And A is to accelerate growth. We need a growth bucket. We want to double, if not triple, our clients' money in their retirement years. And the last thing is to neutralize taxes. People do not like paying taxes. They've worked hard. They did what the government had asked. They paid themselves first. They lived within their means, and now they have a nest egg. And but that nest egg is infected with taxes because so much of that is in retirement accounts. So we're not about tax mitigation, but all about tax evasion, but we're all about tax mitigation, how to minimize that. And that type of planning brings the attorney, brings the advisor, brings in the client, the wealth holder, brings in the kids, the inheritors, together to put together a plan. And next generation planning, we're getting the money ready for the kids, but we're not getting the kids ready for the money. And there's opportunity in the next 2 decades. There is going to be 70 plus trillion dollars that are going to transfer. And if there's ever a time for us to come collectively together in an ensemble, in interdisciplinary practice, coming together in workshops and collaborating together for our clients and helping them leave the legacy they intend to do, because they're not familiar. They don't know what they don't know. There's blind spots, and they're counting on us to help them realize and to see opportunity to better protect the financial integrity of the family. Hopefully you got a couple nuggets. Hopefully you got a couple phrases or questions or statements, maybe an idea to help you better your practice and better serve your clients. So I want to say thank you for allowing me the opportunity. I just appreciate all that you do. I appreciate what Shalene does, what Bobby does in the estate planning. I'm just a big believer. If you own something and you love someone, you plan for it. Thank you.
All right. And I just wanted to open it up for questions in the chat. If anybody has any, we're happy to go over them. Well, there is a little slight lag, so it might take a moment.
Hey, can you all see this?
Mm-hmm.
This is something I put in a family estate organizer, and it says, warning, stop, do nothing. You must talk to Todd Wooten, and they sign it. But this helps bring the kids back into us. This is a great flyer, a great document to hand out. And I tell you, kids will bring this in and says, Mom and Dad sign this saying we have to talk to you. So if you'd like this, I can get a copy over to you all. And I forgot to share it with you or put it in the presentation, but this little flyer goes a long ways. Sorry about that, but I wanted to add that because it's of value.
All right, so I'm not seeing any questions currently. I did also want to thank everybody for joining, and thank you, Todd, for speaking on the topic. I think we're going to wrap it up then.
All right. Well, thank you all. This was a pleasure. I enjoyed it, and I congratulate you all in your efforts, your discipline to better serve our clients and to help plan.
Thank you. All right, and we'll see everybody again next month around the same time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.